Well, we'll call it Forks Out.
Yeah, Spoons Out. Right.
Spoons Out.
Spoons Out. You played Knife and Spoony before.
No, very good.
Yes, Smith.
Hello, you are listening to Off Radar, It's a Movie podcast. I'm James Smith, a professional film and video editor.
I'm James Eatock, a freelance writer and illustrator specialising in 1980s cartoons.
And I'm Neil Brock, aka Nige, the man with two names, former film journalist and currently working in the games industry.
Each week, one of us picks a movie that all three of us either haven't seen in many years or in some cases haven't seen at all.
We each watch the chosen movie, return to the microphone and let you all know exactly what we thought of it.
I'd never really had any interest in watching it and I was proved absolutely right.
I think it's amazing. I really, really love this film.
The film's still a pile of steaming dog shit.
If you fancy joining in and suggesting a movie for us to watch, why not tweet us at Off Radar Podcast
or email us on offradarpod@gmail.com.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, share, and by all means, leave a review.
For now, strap in, turn the volume up, and let's go
Off Radar.
Hello.
All right.
Hello. Welcome
Hello.
back to Off Radar. I'm James Smith, and as always, joined by James Eatock.
Yes. Hello. I was going to try and do like Daniel Craig's southern accent, like Tennessee.
Is that what it was?
I was about to, and then I just realised, no, I'm not going to do it, and then I just.
But maybe the other member of our podcast will, and Neil Brock.
Well, I was going to, and now I feel too much.
Oh, no.
I can't even think how it goes. It's like foghorn leghorn, isn't it? Well,
yes.
Hello there.
I hope that should be a video clip in itself, because it looks like Nige is having some sort of attack there.
It's out.
Yeah, okay, fine. And we kill Neil Nige.
We
kill Neil,
shall we?
Yeah.
We kill Neil Nige.
Kill Neil Nige. Yeah, this film that we are doing on the podcast called Knives Out came out in 2019 and recommended by friend of the podcast, Berlin. Is that his surname?
Michael Berling. Yeah.
Who
previously recommended such delights such as Surf Ninjas. I think he also recommended what was it? Primal Fear as well. So
good shout.
Catalogue. So
quite a varied mix from Michael.
So, mate, we may have reviewed Surf Ninjas ago at low review, but it's a film that I ain't going to forget in a hurry.
No,
exactly.
It definitely was.
Leslie Nielsen as a. Was he like a samurai robot? Robot ninja.
If anyone hasn't seen it, you can watch it for free on YouTube.
I might watch it again.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but and yeah, so yeah, Michael recommended we watch this film. Had Nige, you must have seen this film before.
I had. Yeah. So I'd seen this film. I'd also seen its sequel, Glass Onion. So yeah, was quite familiar going into it. All-star cast, all the various things that we're going to talk about during this podcast. I think I watched it probably not long after it came out, maybe like during COVID time, so like 2020, 2021, something like that.
Nice.
So yes.
Are you seen this one before the pod?
I had not seen it. It's one of those films. It's like it's on my list of got to watch it at some point because just for the cast alone, it's like I really want to see this film at some point.
Very silly cast, isn't it?
It is.
Cast. But I was just like, can't wait to So when it came up, I was like, at last, and to the point where no, okay, we'll get to that afterwards. Nearly spoiled my review there.
To the point of. I gave it a mark.
It was a film that I
watched
because
it was a film that I watched. In it. Fair enough. Yeah, I hadn't seen it either, and I hadn't seen Glass Onion. It's weird. Like you said, you really wanted to watch it. It's one that's never appealed to me.
Really?
Before going into it, it's just I've just always thought, do I really want to watch like a murder mystery film? So we'll see if I like it. But
I guess that's something almost to start off with before we get into the synopsis and stuff. Are you guys generally a fan of that kind of genre of film?
It's a good question. I'm trying to think.
Do you watch not even film necessarily? Obviously, there's a lot of TV shows from your Murder She Wrote to Poirot to Columbo.
Oh man, what am I talking about? Smith, Diagnosis Murder.
Diagnosis Murder, of course.
Murder,
and that's Quincy.
Columbo.
I love Quincy.
Yeah, I definitely used to be. Yeah. I think sometimes with the TV shows it became a bit. Yeah, it's like a formula, isn't it?
Yeah, it's formula. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another film like
that's the thing. I don't want to answer Nige's question. And go, no, I can't really think of many murder, and then realise that one of my murder mysteries, one of my favourite films of all time, or something. It's like, I forgot about that. There's no murder mysteries in Convoy.
Clue for me is one.
Clue is a great movie. I mean,
a very good film.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
I've always quite liked your diagnosis murders and stuff like that. I'm not huge. Like my brother's partner is like obsessed with Poirot. I think she's watched every episode about 27 times, and like my parents always watch like Midsummer Murders and Miss Marple, which are all kind of those ilk. Obviously, the Poirot ones are the ones where you get a detective in a room with all the people, and there's like, it could have been 9 people, and then it's the butler. So anyway, but it's just interesting because these films aren't that common. They were very sort of big in the 70s perhaps, and that kind of era, but not so much now.
Yeah, no, it's true. I like when you asked that, I was like, I don't know if I am. Probably not by the sound of it, but the film. So before we get into the synopsis, written and directed by Rian Johnson.
Surprised me.
Yeah, it surprised me a bit. Brick was one I think I might have seen with you at the cinema, Etok and Nige. I can't remember. I saw it with a number of people around when it came out.
I didn't realise you went to the cinema to that. I think I saw it at home.
I've never seen Brick.
Oh, okay. It wasn't you then.
No, when I met JJL, I did everything in my power not to be like, I loved you in Brick.
My favourite story. Yeah.
I really loved it, but I just thought that would be such a prickish thing to say, and regret that I never did say it.
So you should have said it. He would have loved it.
Maybe I did say it eventually. I can't remember exactly, but all I remember about Brick, other than it being really good, is like the dialogue sound is so low you can barely hear what people are saying. It's almost like Christopher Nolan style.
Oh dear.
But anyway,
and he's obviously done like Looper. I didn't realise
Brothers Bloom, which a few people love. But sorry, you're going to say about Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, I didn't realise he did some episodes.
Did Fly, that episode everyone talks about.
It's the funny thing, like he's more known, unfortunately, in certain circles as one of the guys who worked on one of the, I guess, less good recent Star Wars movies.
Yeah, the Last Jedi, which was directed.
Really did not like that at all. But he's clearly a talented filmmaker.
Well, he's also done quite a lot of TV-based stuff. Obviously, you mentioned Breaking Bad. Quite recently, he's put out a TV show called Poker Face, which has Natasha
I saw the first season of that.
It's only been the first season. So Natasha Lyonne, who's probably best known for Russian Doll. She was in American Pie back in the day.
She was in Russian Doll. Yeah.
Orange is the New Black. Yeah, and it's kind of like an old school style of TV show in the ilk of like Columbo's and stuff. And it's like standalone episodes. It's one of those TV shows that there's like a vague running longer term plot, but it's more about like the individual episodes. Yeah, and like guest stars for that have been JGL was in that, so Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Adrian Brody, Ron Perlman, John Ratzenberger, Rhea Perlman, Nick Nolte, and Chloe Sevigny. So you can kind of see that there's people want to work with Rian Johnson. You look at the cast of this, look at the cast of Glass Onion as well, and there's a third film coming out called Wake Up Dead Man
this year. Right?
Oh wow, really?
Which again, the cast list is just absolutely bonkers. So clearly people want to work with Rian Johnson. Is it Rian or Ryan Johnson? I'm not sure.
I've heard it's Ryan. Whenever I hear it,
we're going to go Ryan. Okay,
Ryan. And like you say, like a massive cast, ensemble cast, as you were. Ensemble. Anna de Armas. Anna de Armas. I don't think I've really seen her in it. I don't think I've really seen her in anything before.
She was in Bond, wasn't she?
Yeah,
No Time to Die. She was in that film with Keanu Reeves where they knock on his door and then start getting naked.
That's the first time I saw him. Was that? She was in Blade Runner 20.
Yeah, Blade Runner.
She was in that. I've seen that, but anyway.
She was in that arms dealer film, wasn't she? With what was it? War Dogs.
War Dogs. Yeah.
She's in that. Oh, okay. Yeah. I have seen her before. I did not recognise her.
I really like her in everything she's in. Usually,
She basically went through around the time of this film. Like she was the biggest thing in Hollywood, I would say. Like everyone, all the teenage boys were obsessed with her. I'm sure the masturbation numbers went through the roof. It was that she was that for that generation, I would say. But she is a very talented actress.
That's just very good.
And talking of masturbation numbers, we've also got Daniel Craig,
Chris Evans,
Jamie Lee
Curtis.
So who we spoke about in Everything Everywhere All at Once since this kind of renaissance as an actor again.
Our boy Lakeith Stanfield. I was like, it's. I'm watching it, and I'm like, where do I know him from?
He's from Atlanta, but was also from Sorry to Bother You.
Sorry to Bother You.
If you check out our back catalogue of Off Radar, is in there.
And talking of our back catalogue, Tony Collette, Little Miss Sunshine.
So good.
Yeah, and then Michael Shannon, Don Johnson.
One of my favourites, Don Johnson
in a film.
When I saw Don Johnson appear on screen, I was like, it's Don Johnson. Just like, I think Miami Vice. Like, I haven't seen Don Johnson. You know, he turns up every once in a while in a film, but I just feel like he doesn't get much work these days. But to see him there, I was like, oh, that's awesome. DJ, it's just perfect.
He's very good in a film called Tin Cup with Kevin Costner, a sports film, a golf film. But other than that, I can't remember seeing him in a film for decades.
Also, one actor, I'm sure we'll get to his. Well, I mean, he does have a small part in this film, but I did not recognise him or his voice.
No,
Frank Oz.
Yeah.
The credits come up, and I'm like,
that's mad.
Oh, you know,
because I was looking
Frank
at
Oz.
IMDb, and I was like, is Frank Oz? Is there a puppet in this film?
Who did Frank Oz play? Because I didn't even clock it.
The Will guy.
The lawyer.
Of course it was. Yeah, I remember him from Blues Brothers because he's in that at the start. He's the guy that lets the Blues Brothers out, and obviously he looks like Frank Oz. But I just haven't seen him in years and didn't even.
I just wouldn't know what he looks like because of.
I know what he looks like, but I just haven't seen him in years. Obviously, he directs.
It's a very small part, but yeah, he does pop up.
He's he's my favourite voice.
And Christopher Plummer as well. I believe this was his last film as well.
Oh really?
Right. Yeah, because when I saw him on screen, I thought to myself, "Oh, he I'm sure he passed away." Yeah.
And Nige, I think I asked you to give us. You're going to be interested in this.
Well, you're murdering me here because you actually asked James Etok. So should we hand over to El Taco?
Etok.
You're not. Synopsis. I'm going to ruin that. So if you can't edit that out now. God. So Smith, you didn't ask Nige. You asked me.
I did. I even texted you personally as well.
Even text me about 2 hours before. Okay, here we go. Successful crime novelist Harlan Thrombey is found dead at home in what is ruled initially as a suicide. The police arrive to question the family, as does famous detective Benoit Blanc, whom himself is unsure as to who hired him to investigate. As the family members are questioned one by one, it soon becomes apparent that this incredibly dysfunctional family are less intent on mourning and more focused on the contents of Harlan Thrombey's will. Non-family member Marta, the nurse to Harlan, becomes a focal point of the investigation due to the close, genuine friendship she had with the now-deceased author. With everyone seemingly having a motive to murder, Benoit Blanc must meticulously explore every detail and figure out who done it.
I'm Detective Lieutenant Elliott, and this is Trooper Wagner. We just want to ask a few questions. We understand the night of his demise, the family have gathered to celebrate your father's 85th birthday. How was it, by the way?
The party? Pre my dad's death? Oh, it was great.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request that you all stay until the investigation is completed.
What?
Can we ask why? Has something changed?
No.
No, it hasn't changed, or no, we can't ask?
And we open in this film on the house. And I think it's a really nice start to the film because we see the dogs kind of running almost towards the camera, but you know, this almost like haunted house is... scenario is like a character in this film. So yeah, it's set in autumn, it's misty and cold, and we're introduced to the house before we meet anybody else, I think. And straight away we get the strings as well, the music. It's all very kind of energetic and like violins, and
it feels like a throwback to films of, as Nige was saying before, like those kind of what do you call them, like crime novel movies of,
well, you get all these close-ups in the house as well, don't you, of like loads of
objects
things, and you're looking at them. Well, I was looking at them thinking, oh, is there a clue here? Because I start to think, Well,
like
at the start of this
Traitors
film,
again, Smith.
yeah, it is because Traitors.
I've never seen that. Sorry.
Oh man! So obviously, Traitors came on, at the beginning of the year as one of the most popular kind of TV shows at the moment, and yeah, you do start to think like this film is going to be like that, where you're kind of guessing and looking at every character, and that's how
the suspicions are everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah, but I thought that I was going to have to figure it out basically at the start of this film. Which was clever when we kind of know what happens later, as Zetox said. But yeah, we see the death straight away, and then we have the opening thing, and it's like, oh wow, okay, we're straight into this film.
Straight into interrogations.
Straight into interrogations, and away we go.
And straight into Daniel Craig's accent.
Well, that's a good starting point, isn't it?
His southern...
It's quite a surprise.
It's like Louisiana kind of accent, I guess. Kind of like that. Like Nige said before, Foghorn Leghorn, which I think even Chris Evans says towards the end of the movie. He goes, I'm tired of your, is it Foghorn Leghorn something accent or something? And it's that Louisiana accent, which tends to lose vowels and shorten words ending with ing to just
and
in.
I think because he is Bond or was Bond, it's that bit more of a shock that his character is got this very strong accent, and it is just on the edge. If it goes a bit too far, even further, I think it becomes too comic. Because it's interesting with this film. Maybe this is a general point. This film, I wouldn't say is a comedy. It's probably a drama, but you kind of smile at certain things, it's not.
It's amusing.
It's amusing, but it's not.
It's quite jaunty, I would say, as well.
Yes,
so
that's a great word, Nige.
That kind of feel to it, where it's not taking itself too seriously. It's trying to carry you along with it, and I think Daniel Craig is kind of part of that in the sense of. They could have just gone a very traditional, just make him English, posh English, Sherlock Holmes type.
That's what I was expecting. I honestly had no idea.
Look at the kind of things that influence this. Poirot's a perfect example. Yeah. It's a Belgian, almost exclusively played by an Englishman, putting on a weird Belgian accent. This is almost like an American version of Poirot, played by a classically trained English actor. I think people kind of forget as well that Daniel Craig, whilst, as you rightly said, is... everyone sort of says James Bond when they think Daniel Craig, but you look at his early films and some of the films that he's done kind of around Bond, and he is someone who started as quite an independent actor. I think there's a film called Mother that he was in, The Mother, The Layer Cake, Munich, things like that. This is a guy, The Road to Perdition as well. He plays a really sinister character. This is a guy that can act.
He's a great actor. Yeah,
I don't think he'd have taken this film if it hadn't have had that carrot dangle to do something a little bit out there with it. And he actually said, Rian Johnson said, I'd written to the script that he speaks with a subtle southern accent. This is anything but subtle. I mean, they sort of described the fact that Craig researched some accents and came across a historian called Shelby Foote, who's got a very distinct cadence and drawl. And they said it's kind of like that, kind of a little bit, as we've said, Foghorn Leghorn. It's also a little bit Harlan Pepper, which I don't know if you've ever seen the film Best in Show, a character played by Christopher Guest. And bizarrely, obviously, Christopher Guest is married in real life to Jamie Lee Curtis. So there's that kind of weird thing where it all adds up together. But yeah, I think I would not blame any person who watches this film to be completely thrown by Daniel Craig doing it. But by the end of the film, it's just it's just Daniel Craig doing an accent kind of thing.
Who hired you?
I do not know. An envelope of cash showed up at my apartment yesterday with a news clip and a throw of his death.
An envelope, that worked.
An envelope of cash.
I think the thing that goes in his favour is his character exudes, I feel, so much charm. The accent is always known as quite the charming accent. It's almost like a Leonardo DiCaprio does the southern accent in oh my goodness, Django Unchained, doesn't he? He's because it's because when you think about the southern times, that was the times of the slave trade and all that. So when you see a lot of those films involved in the slave trade, it's always the bad house owner, the colonel or whatever it is, and it's always that Louisiana kind of accent that comes into it. But there is a charm to that accent, and it's very kind of lovely on the ears. So yeah, it is a shock, like Smith said. It's I expected as soon as he opened his mouth to be hear Daniel Craig's voice.
What's his character's name?
Name's Blanc.
The name's
Benoit Blanc.
Benoit, yeah.
Benoit Blanc.
Yeah.
But I think it works really well, and like I think like nice. There's a degree where you go over a little bit and it becomes almost parody, but I feel it works perfectly within the film, within a film of bizarre characters.
Yeah,
this does. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I'm not sure Nige will agree with me, but. It does feel like a somewhat of a because it's I guess an ensemble as well. It does feel a bit of a Wes Anderson film kind of thing. I'm not saying visually. I see Nige going like, well, but you know what I mean.
There's
in the
definitely
sense of
kind of elements to it. Even just
I'm not saying it's even remotely in the same league in terms of the filmmaking style, but in terms of characters so kind of identifiable. Not I don't mean by us, but like, oh, this is that character, this is that character. They've got little quirks and traits. Not obviously not as extreme as what you get in a Wes Anderson film, but I feel that kind of accent is a part of that character.
It's weird. I don't. You're right in like my reaction was exactly what you said, but I think Rian Johnson. His are almost a little bit more glossy. I don't know if glossy is the right 100%. Word. Yeah. But yeah, I get what you're saying. And I think that's the thing with having an ensemble cast. You either develop characters really well, or the other option is just cast really well-known actors in the roles. And I think both Wes Anderson and Rian Johnson do both, and that's fine. And it kind of works. And I think in this film specifically, like every character is very clearly defined as a certain type, be it a money grabber, a philanderer, a screwball, whatever, a Nazi potentially as well.
Yes,
what he does early on really well, Johnson, is establish all the suspicion around all of these characters. So
it's so good.
You've got
the interviews.
Yeah, the interviews, which is it's like got the knives behind.
The knife. It's such a good visual.
It's good, but it's like a Game of Thrones like iron chair type thing behind it. But,
the chair of swords or
the chair of sword thing, but it's with knives. So it's but visually, I mean, there's no shying away from it. Knives out. But obviously that comes back in later in the film. But they're all being interviewed. The way they actually are interviewed is almost like how you set up a documentary. Person to be interviewed for a film, and it's shot like because when you're interviewing someone, obviously you probably wouldn't even do it in the house, but the way they shoot it is just like it would be in a documentary. So it has this feel where they're intercutting between Jamie Lee Curtis and blah blah blah. That feels like an interview.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love the bit where like Jamie Lee Curtis is like, you're not going to entrap me like that. I'm not that stupid.
She goes, I won't talk shit about my family, Don Johnson.
Just straight away, just like bang, goes straight into it. And it's interesting because, like you say, there is that documentary bit, but there's also like the flashback. There's the telling of the story from the different perspectives, like different people at different points, and then it kind of gives you the true story through Ana de Armas when he kind of accosts her outside. But even Johnson said, like, when he developed the script, he was always like, oh God, I really tried to edit that bit to shave it down, the interrogation sequence with the flashback, because it was a tough read because there's so much to it. Like you kind of got to just have your brain filled with all this information and then it kicks into gear.
Yeah, I found all of that. I was thinking to myself, if this is the film,
yes,
this is. I'm not in because I was quite confused. I was like, oh no, are we going to see it from every character's perspective? And
I was worried they were going to do that.
But the fact that then obviously we find out that the housekeeper played Marta. Yeah,
is she the housekeeper or the nurse?
Nurse.
She's the nurse. Sorry, nurse. Yeah, that's quite an important thing as well.
Well, I was going to say. Important. It's funny you say that as well, because there's a scene where like Don Johnson basically hands her an empty plate as though she's the housekeeper, and he said that was his own idea to do that because it's just like a classic. I was going to say Don Johnson thing to do, but the character he plays is probably what you would expect Don Johnson.
Well, at the moment in that scene as well, he's praising her and he's like, "Oh, she came to this country the right way, blah 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 blah," and then just hands her the thing as if she's the help. And I was like, I love that.
Yeah, they even
touch.
say that, don't they? Yeah,
yeah. But what I love about that. That part, like, well, initially, like I say, I was almost fearful of it. I was like, oh, we're going to get the kind of I forget the famous is it Japanese film where it's all the different. I should know this. It's all the different stories from one. All the different perspectives about one story. So you get all these different. And I thought, is it going to be that? And I thought, I don't want this keep cutting back between a character. But I think what this film beautifully does is when we get the true story, at least for a moment, what we think is the true story, because we're not 100% sure. But when Anna de Animis, Marta, I'll just use the character name, it's much easier. is when Marta tells the true story of what happened.
She has to tell the true story, because if she tries to lie, she
throws up,
vomits, basically.
So what?
Which is a bizarre storytelling technique
But then, just quickly, it does tie into the TV show I mentioned at the start that Rian Johnson's made, Poker Face, because the main skill of that person is that she can always tell when someone's lying. So for whatever reason, either Johnson uses it as a plot device in a couple of different things. If people lie, they get caught out. So
because what that does, obviously, is it makes you think as the viewer that Daniel Craig's character is believing basically everything she says, even though you know the truth. Well, what you think to be the truth.
Well, what I love the way that bit's structured. So he's interviewing everyone, and then he's like, "Right, I've interviewed all the family members. Now let me interview the nurse." So he sits down Marta and he says, he goes, I'm not going to try and do the accent, but he says, you have a regurgitative. I can't
you sound like Forrest Gump.
I do, don't I?
I just felt like running.
It kind of is like that. But he says you have a regurgitative reaction to mistrusting.
You have a regurgitative reaction to mistrusting.
So there's a scene where he flicks up his coin, and then we suddenly get what really happened that night.
Go downstairs as noisily as you can, and then say goodbye loudly.
Walt, I'm leaving.
Call attention to the time.
God, it's midnight already.
If you can. Drive out the gate. Then, to avoid the security cameras, pull off the road before the carved elephant.
Wait, was it before or after?
After the carved elephant.
No, he said before. Was it?
The after for the carved elephant.
Oh, shit.
The actual plan is mental. The driving out and then coming back in and climbing up, and the dogs.
Climb up the trellis.
And it's all of that. And it's the way it's told. And that, I kind of see what you mean. It's like, it is a bit like Wes Anderson, isn't it? The kind of flamboyancy of like, oh, right, now you're going to go up there and you're going to do this. And it's like,
well, he's a master storyteller, isn't he? He writes books, and he's kind of, even when she kind of says about what she's doing, like the amount that you would need to inject, he kind of writes it down in his little notebook to say, oh yeah, this is a good idea for a book that I could write. He basically plans it all out masterfully for what she can do to kind of get away with it and not be held responsible for this. Also knowing full well that, massive spoiler alert, that he's gonna give all of his will to her, essentially, all of his stuff, and that if she is the one who's proven to have killed him, then she will receive nothing. So, because something we haven't mentioned is, while she's been hired as his nurse, she becomes like his confidant, his closest friend as well.
That's why they're playing the board game, and like it's clear that out of all the family members, he's closer to her than all the family members. It's like he clearly feels a bond with her, and someone that he can just talk to, and someone that doesn't look to him as like the wealthy old man, someone that is there to kind of help. And it's, as we find out later in the movie, it's her truthfulness and her humanity that kind of saves the day or gets her out of a very bad position, put it that way, and gets the true baddie.
Some of her, it's funny, isn't it? Because although we say it's like a cast of like lots of people, I feel like she is almost at the centre of this film.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Despite that, but like it is an ensemble cast.
I think this film lives or dies on her.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
To a slightly lesser extent, maybe Daniel Craig. I think, much like an average episode of Poirot, you have the detective, and then you normally have like the main protagonist. Well, not even necessarily the main protagonist. Then you have like the faces who play everyone else. We're just normally like, oh, I know her from EastEnders, or oh, that's that person from that kind of film. And this has just done it at a very high box office level.
But it's important that it does focus it in on her, because otherwise, like I said at the beginning, like I feel like this film could just be a mess of loads of people. But what it does really well is the builds this really nice relationship between her and Daniel Craig's character. So as he's like investigating, he's almost taken her out because he knows that she can tell the truth. He thinks that she's telling the truth. But, you know, like where there's a scene where they're walking up through the gate and he's like, she thinks she's one step ahead of him with the footsteps. So she quickly walks up and pretends not to hear him to cover her tracks, quite literally. And it's really nicely done. Even to the point where the thing that she's broke down, that she lobs it. And I thought, the dog brings it back. The dog is going to bring it back, right? But it's well done. Did you know you can now subscribe to Off Radar? It's a movie podcast on YouTube. You can watch exclusive trailers and listen to brand new full episodes. All links and info in the description down below.
Somebody stop me!
There's one little scene that made me smile as like a lover of, and I'm sure you both appreciate this as well, when she gets the security VHS tape and she goes, I'll take that.
Magnet,
she puts it in her pocket, and then you just like, and that's not explicitly explained. So there might be a generation of people watching that who've never dealt with VHS tapes and know that don't put them near magnets, that are probably like, what happened? Because there's a throwaway line the detective makes later where he's like, the VHS was like, it was scrambled or something. But it's just like, you see her put it in a pocket with the fridge magnet that they show you in a just an earlier shot, and I was like, I like that. I like the fact that she did the old tape wiping thing. Although I don't think it's that easy, but it was a good little touch.
Well, I guess one of the strongest like things that the director can play on is the fact that like we do not know these characters. We know there's this big build up about Daniel Craig and the fact like, he's this world famous detective, but to us we don't know whether he's competent or incompetent, and we feel like, I mean, I'm the only one who's kind of had seen this film more than once, so I kind of knew everything going into it. That gives you a completely different perspective going back and watching this. That, for me, and again, massive spoiler, like, you know that Daniel Craig kind of has a lot of it figured out from the off about her, but when you watch it, certainly the first time, it's very easy to be drawn into this fact that, like, maybe he is a bit bumbling. Maybe he isn't quite following what's going on.
Why is he not seeing? Why is he not seeing some of these clues right in front of his nose? And then you're like, well, he probably is, basically, or he is. Yeah.
I get what Nigel's saying completely. I think watching this movie a second time will give you a completely different view of the game, because that comes up a few times, of the game that Daniel Craig is playing, or Benoit Blanc, because they talk about the game that Marta's playing, but also the game that Ransom, the son, is playing as well, because he kind of Chris Evans' character, Hugh Ransom something or the other, he's barely in the film for about, I'd say, the first half.
He just shows up like this. And you're like, who's this guy?
He turns up and you're like, he's
like
clearly
a dick.
And douchebag Playboy.
He's the black sheep of the family. He's got all the money, but there's clearly, something's happened where he was having an argument with Mr. Thromby the night of the murder. So it's like, he's a suspect too. But he was seen leaving the house, so he clearly can't be a suspect, because and again,
much like the nurse, she leaves the house.
This film plays with the whole narrative of people seeing what they think they see, and also it comes back to Harland Thromby. His mother is still alive, which is such a great gag in the film, because they're like, I think one of the detectives is like, wait, how old is she? And they're like, we have no idea. And I was like, that's such a great gag. But she sees people coming and going in the house. And so there's a little kind of thing there as well, where she thinks she sees Ransom, but it's actually Marta. So Marta's like, well, if she thinks she's seen Ransom, then I'm okay. But that comes back later in the film as well. But I want to talk about the will reading scene, which I think is such a fantastic moment. So the family gathers for the reading of the will. Frank Oz, not doing his Kermit voice.
He didn't do Kermit. His Yoda voice.
Grover or Yoda voice. So
money you not like knowing.
Basically, he gets the will out and he looks at the paper and he's like, short will, which I thought was quite good. It's just like one page.
All my assets, both liquid and otherwise, I leave in their entirety to Marta Cabrera.
They're so involved in arguing with each other at this point. They're so dysfunctional that they're almost ready to fight each other for this money. They have no idea that he's going to actually give it to her. And actually, as the audience, I didn't I didn't really see that coming either. So yeah,
no, because it is because like I mean, like you say, it's
kind of obvious, but, yeah,
it's kind of obvious, but it's not presented that way. I think in the film, so you're like, oh, she's getting everything.
Right. He was been.
Oh my God.
He's been.
Are there safeguards? Tell us there's a mistake.
I don't know what to say. We're his family, so.
It's not possible.
There's safeguards against it.
I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis in that moment is fantastic,
yeah.
where she just cusses her out. She's like, yeah, and they're all going for it.
We treated you so well, kind of thing.
And the son calls her like something like an anchor baby, which made me laugh.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of trivia about that line actually. So it's Jacob, so the little Nazi essentially said, "You had sex with my grandpa, you dirty anchor baby," which was apparently improvised by the actor, but it was originally lost in the scene when they recorded it because multiple cameras were talking and yelling at the same time. And Michael Shannon, who plays his dad in the film, the guy with the walking stick, noticed this and approached the director and basically said, "He's got a great line, you've got to make sure you record this." And they went back and did it, so to make sure that was in the final film.
Everybody just needs to cool
You
their
had
jet.
sex with my grandpa, you dirty anchor baby.
And in the meantime, I'd maybe rub.
So she can't start the car, and all the family are banging on the windows, which is like really good because it makes them look so desperate and like nasty. And she gets in the car with Ransom, and she tells Ransom basically the story of what happened.
Because he's a very charming, despite being
he's a charming. He's
very
Chris
charming,
Evans.
and
Good looking dude.
Those two have a connection in the sense of like
outsiders.
And also they both have strong relationships with Harland in the sense of, even though he's a douchebag, they have a very like love-hate relationship. They both play the board game with him and stuff like that, and everyone kind of knows that, and they almost make a big song and dance about how they disagree with each other. So she feels slightly protected by him, as you say, reveals all, and then that leads her on a path of basically a path that he's kind of plotted out for her in a way.
I'm not going to tell my family shit. You're not going to go to jail. That detective's not going to catch you. And you're not going to give up the money.
What's going on? This isn't you. You could just turn me in right now and still get your cut of the inheritance. Why?
Because fuck my family. I can help you get away with this. And then, you're going to give me my cut of the inheritance.
They go on this basically adventure together, which at one point has a one of the funniest car chases ever, where she's in.
It's a little bit like a time jobby at that point, isn't it?
It kind of is a big open road, isn't it? Yeah.
And they're going through like a little alley, and she's in like a really crappy, like, I don't know what it is, like a Volvo or something. yeah. But the car chase scene's really well done, but also you get this point where obviously the car chase comes to an end, and Daniel Craig's character like kind of believes her straight away that it's him, and he gets arrested, and he's like coaxed her into it. But yeah, which is good. But it's really interesting how she trusts him, as in Ransom, as a character, like straight, because she didn't probably have to tell him. I know what you mean about the puking up bit, but she develops this relationship with him. Does she know him before that well? Probably not.
Well, she must do, because obviously she knows the grandfather so well, so she knows everything about everyone. So yeah, I agree. It is a bit of a stretch for her to be so trusting of him, but then she's desperate. She's got the entire family's kind of surrounding her. There's no one really on her side. She's worried she's going to get found out by the detective.
Yeah.
Where does she turn to? And
he kind of makes her an offer as well. He's like, basically, you'll get the money and then you'll give me my share, because he's been written out of the will. That's the other thing. Something he's acutely aware of.
Do you fancy sending us a film to review, or letting us know your thoughts on a film that we have discussed? All of your comments will be read out in our end of season leaderboard episode. Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com, tweet us at offradarpodcast, message us on Facebook. All links and info in the description down below.
Do it! Do it!
And then we get the big reveal, which is like Marta is sat like in the Knives Out kind of thing, and she's sitting there, and it's kind of such a beautifully done scene where they bring in Ransom, the son, and it's basically revealed that he was the mastermind behind everything, because he had assumed that basically she would do what he would do in that situation. So in other words, like they talk about this as well, like,
and he hired hired Daniel Craig's character as well.
To get to the bottom of what actually happened, which is her putting them all.
Because he assumed that basically
that's what would happen.
That's what would happen. But again, he didn't count on her humanity. Her saving Fran
kind of messed it all up.
Messes it up, because if she'd died, it was this whole thing, and she would have continued to go down the blackmail path. But what I love is the way Daniel Craig and her have this like really touching moment where he's explaining to her. He goes, "No, they were swapped, and then you swapped them again. So you basically gave him the correct.
Okay. He was okay." And then there's part of me at this point where I think maybe even Harlan kind of knew his fate at this point. You know what I mean? Because kind of, like, it's almost the idea of the suicide thing right at the beginning. Maybe he was quite happy to go at this point.
Such a dramatic way to kill yourself as well, because we get that shot as well.
Why would you literally slit your throat? It's like because
we see him slit his throat because it's
all part of this elaborate crime type thing.
But it does read like a crime novel, doesn't it? And I think that's part of the thing why the story is generated the way it is, and maybe to a degree Harlan knew that it
something
kind of like it would be as melodramatic as like it is. You say it's such a dramatic
the fact
way
he does it in front of her as well, which is really brutal, but at the same time it forces her to act, because there's no way back. And like as the detective says to her, like, if they'd just followed her first instinct of calling the ambulance and waiting for it, he would have lived, because they would have realised, oh, actually you didn't give him the morphine. But I love the emotion in their faces when they're talking to one another, or like when Benoit Blanc is kind of, she's sat on the chair and he's talking to her, and he says, yeah, you gave Harlan the correct medication. He's like, because you are a good nurse. And you can see the emotion in her eyes where she's like, oh, I didn't do anything, I didn't kill him. He's like, no, this was, as it stands, just a suicide. And it's like, oh man, it's like a tragic, I think he even uses the word like a tragic tale at some point.
Then the little toy knife thing at the end was really good as well, where
I enjoyed that.
For a second I was like, fuck, Ransom's killed her. But like, it wouldn't be a total stretch that she dies in this film.
I honestly thought that was I was like, oh wow, he killed her.
It's like like a toy knife.
It does this, and it's the old trick knife, because earlier he meant
he's an idiot that can't tell the difference between a prop knife and a real knife.
Between a trick knife.
Comes full circle.
So that kind of pays off, and it's like, oh, that's cute. Bit of a forced payoff. I did like that. But I love that final shot where the camera pulls back and they each turn round, and then you just get her atop the balcony of the house, because
it's like a royal, isn't it?
Then she picks, and then the cup goes to her mouth, and the words, I think it was on the cup, it says her house. No, my house.
My house, my rules.
Well, the coffee mug reads, my house, my rules, my coffee, and it was manufactured for the film, and replicas of the mug are now available for purchase.
And you can buy them via Off-Radar's
no, you can just get Serial Geek mugs from us.
Oh, bless you. No, when she started drinking, my first thought was like, oh, that's cute. And then I thought, I bet those are available now. Because one thing I remember about this film after it came out, there did seem to be like a lot of, it's hard to describe, like, fans of this movie. I don't mean people that just enjoyed it, but it seemed to have like I'm not even going to say a cult following, but just a following of people that adored the characters in this movie.
It kind of gathered momentum, this film, didn't it? Like, yeah.
There's one final quote from Benoit Blanc when she says, what are you going to do with the money? And she goes, what is it? She goes, I think she says, I should help them. And he goes, I have my opinion. He goes, but I have a feeling you'll follow your heart. And I was like, that's really cute, because that's her whole character. Her character is like, so good that it foils Chris Evans' plan, because Chris Evans, Ransom, conjures the plan with how he would operate, not knowing that she operates very differently, because she has humanity and empathy on her side.
And not selfish like he is.
Not selfishness like he is. So
to be fair, like, we haven't really discussed like the Walt's son, not Walt's son, Joni's daughter Meg, it does actually have a strong relationship with Marta. She's a bit of a stoner, she's like doing education, she kind of gets turned a little bit by the family to almost betray her and tells them about the fact that her mother's an illegal immigrant and stuff like that. But they do have like a genuinely close relationship, and Marta at one point does say to her, like, whatever happens, like, I will look out for you, I'll pay for your school fees, kind of thing. And so I don't, even though like generally the family is kind of scumbags and out for themselves. I think there is that little bit of a shining light in the family and someone that maybe post credits that probably did stay close to her. But it's an interesting film in the sense of you're not really supposed to like any of the family members much, I would say. As I said, everyone's kind of out for themselves, but it's very much like a class sort of film, which in America isn't as common as I'd say it is over in the UK, where class seems to be everything. So,
well, it's like Harlan's kind of thing just strikes me as like old money. Don't get me wrong, it's clearly well earned money, but it's almost like
it's a bit like it's like Succession, isn't it? It's like they're all vying for the...
I've never seen it, but I'll
okay. Well, I mean, obviously that... Yeah, it is. It's like very very horrible, unlikable people, but all basically want a piece of the pie, which is kind of
touching
this.
My pie.
Yeah, but in a slightly different narrative.
Well, it's really weird actually. Like Jamie Lee Curtis is obviously cast in this film, prominent member of the family, etc. In real life, her father was Tony Curtis, her mother was Janet Leigh, and Tony Curtis actually cut all of his children out of his will and gave it to his then wife, which wasn't.
Wow!
So, like, she probably had like a personal feeling, and I think she came out afterwards and said like, "Oh, it's a really powerful role to be that matriarch of the family and kind of kick off and everything else." And it's like she's never publicly spoken about it. So whether or not it was therapeutic in a way to play this role, who knows? I'm probably triggering.
So, yeah.
Triggering, well, exactly. Yeah, but she did it, and as we said, her career's gone from strength to strength recently. Anyway, so
have you got
I think that's a cue for me to come and trivia, isn't it?
Trivia knowledge.
So we spoke about Chris Evans acting in this. Rian Johnson said like he's an absolutely fantastic actor, like one of the best I've seen, because when he first shows up and gets out of his car, all the dogs jump up at him and go wild and they're really angry. And it's like he loves dogs and dogs love him in real life. So it was like a big bit of acting, which I found was quite amusing. It's one of those films where they kind of kept the script secret from each other because you didn't want to give too much away. But they obviously wanted them to know more about the characters they were portraying, but also needed to be a little bit in the dark. And I think you can kind of see that with how it works throughout the film. And there's a couple of bits that we haven't touched upon. So when Benoit Blanc is kind of first, they're doing the interrogation scene, occasionally he like hits the piano key.
Yeah, what ding?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's a cue for the detective to ask them about the time they arrived at the party in order to find out whether they had any motives. And there's also a scene when they discuss like the hole within the donut.
And
kind of So Rian Johnson, he wrote this kind of dialogue about him saying, it's the hole inside the donut, blah 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 blah. And he kind of was going to cut it because he's like, this is nonsense. No one's going to get this. And Daniel Craig was like insistent. No, it's good. We've got to keep this in. And only when he actually delivered on it and sold it by acting out, he was like, wow, this is genius, and kind of kept it in.
It's a great piece of dialogue because it's so rambly, but also breaking it down, it does make sense, but it's bizarre.
And we kind of spoke about a little bit of Rian Johnson's past, like obviously doing The Last Jedi, which, as Etok said, was quite badly received by some people, aka him. I thought it was fine, but not great. Anyway, the preppy Nazi grandson who's always on his phone was actually a character influenced by those that voiced their criticism at the Star Wars film, which Johnson still to this day characterises as trolls and man babies. So he's not let a grudge die, and he's cast that grudge in this film essentially as well. Wow. So that was quite interesting. There's a couple of bits about eating shit being said as a line. This was partly because they wanted to keep the film as a PG-13. They didn't want to have like fucks in it. Chris Evans actually came up with the idea of replacing a fuck you with a eat shit because it's kind of funny and it kind of works. But then they also said Michael Shannon was like the most funniest person on set, came up with a lot of improv and physical moments, like his triumphant arm raise during the eat shit scene, and also his retort, I'm not eating one iota of shit. So all the shit comes from Chris Evans and Michael Shannon. So, and then two last bits of trivia. I mentioned the Hallmark movie Deadly by Surprise. That is actually based on a real Hallmark film by someone called Danka McKellar, and even though she wasn't consulted about the film being mentioned in this or anything like that, she was delighted to be included, and later on Instagram, I think it was, or something like that, she shared her love of the film and actually sent the director Rian Johnson a knife with the words "Deadly by Surprise" engraved on it. So there you go. Rian Johnson is a big fan of this kind of genre of stuff.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then the very last one, going back to our good old friend of the show, JGL. He's not in this film, and he is a constant contributor for obviously Brick being the breakthrough film. Rian Johnson's worked with Hit Record, which is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's own kind of personal production company. But then I lie, because he is in the film, because he provides the voice of a police detective heard on the TV series Marta's Sister Is Watching, and he is billed in the film's credits as Detective Hard Rock, and he has appeared in, I think, 6 of the films Johnson has directed.
Oh, really?
So, Looper as well, of course. So
yes.
So there you go. Whether or not he rocks up in the sequels, I don't know. I can't remember if he's in Glass Onion, but the only kind of carryover to Glass Onion is Benoit.
Because he's in it, right? I take it.
Oh, wait, so none of the other cast are in?
No, it's a new murder situation. And I assume it'll be the same for the one that's
probably
coming
a good
up
thing, right?
Well, again, it's like Poirot. Like, Poirot moves and all the characters around him change. Like, even in Murder, She Wrote, it's primarily about her, albeit you have a few different characters.
Was nice to see a clip from that in this movie as well.
And also,
she goes back to,
obviously, I've not seen Glass Onion, but now you know his character. It's interesting if you watch Glass Onion, you now know what to expect from
how
his
he
character
works,
in the
kind
next
of thing.
one. Yeah. Nice trivia. Michael Burling recommended this one, Nige.
He did indeed.
What did he think of the film?
He said, "I don't care about the film, I just hate James." No, he didn't say that.
James.
Michael Burling. So, as I mentioned, he's already provided a couple of reviews to us, a couple of films for us to watch in the past, and reviews that go with that. But his review is as follows. So, having finished my second viewing of the movie, I enjoy Lives Out as a good murder mystery movie. It's got a good cast that all seem to be enjoying themselves, and Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc is a compelling character that helps fill the film overall. That accent is just amazing. I remember it shocking me when he spoke it the first time, and it still shocks me now, and obviously we discussed it earlier. What I will say, though, is I didn't enjoy it as much this time round, and I think that's because it's not as compelling viewing as a movie when you know the plot twists that are coming, which means for him it's not as good as either of the murder mystery films Clue or Murder by Death, which I think is a Peter Sellers film as well, Murder by Death. So for those reasons, I'm not going to give it as high as I thought I might when I initially recommended it. I'm going to give it a 7.5. Ooh. So what he says is, on his scale, that's better than Surf Ninjas, but not as good as Primal Fear. So everyone, that's where this film falls for Michael Burling. Thank you for sending in the recommendation.
I can't remember what he gave Surf Ninjas, but there you go. Nice, he said. Shall I go?
Go on, Smith.
Where are you going?
I'll go into Knives Out. I'll go into this murder mystery house. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I wasn't that bothered about watching this film before it was recommended, just because I felt like it had a lot of hype, and it was a film that I thought, I'm not sure I'm gonna, this is necessarily going to appeal. But it's still interested to see it, obviously. The beginning, I was like, a bit like you, Etok, I was a bit thrown, and I was like, oh man, I'm not sure if I will like this, with all these we're going to see it from 9 perspectives, and then I'm going to have to work it out, and all the characters are quite overwhelming in that first 15 minutes, especially when you've not seen the film before. You're like, oh my god, who's that, who's he related to, is he the... But that becomes almost irrelevant as the film goes on. I think the script is like really clever. The way it's written is, I couldn't even think how you would... it's almost like you've got to start at the end to get to the beginning. It's really well done.
That's a good point.
Isn't that what they say about Harlan, that a lot of his films he just thinks of like how it happens, as in how it ends, and then he works his way backward and finds it really easy to write the book. So maybe that's how Johnson came.
Well, maybe you start, and very much the film does start at the end in some ways. You kind of
there you go.
You know the death, and then it's the going back over it and working it all out. Like Michael said, Daniel Craig is inspired in this, really unexpected if you've not seen it. I mean, all the cast do a great job in their different roles, and some have very small roles, like the boy, like Jacob, really good. I think the house and the setting is really good. I like how it's all autumn, and quite easily they could have done it at Christmas time and made this almost like a bit of a Christmas film. Maybe have a similar effect, I don't know, but it works well because then it ties in with the mud. Like everything's thought out meticulously with the script. If it's done in the summer, you wouldn't have the footsteps. It's all clever. Yeah. It's all thought of. Some of the kind of twists and turns that come, I thought were clever. I didn't expect any of it. I thought maybe it'd been switched. That was the only thing, but it didn't really matter. How do I feel about this film? I enjoyed this film. I wouldn't say I love it. And it's not because I've got anything to fault it with. I just didn't love it, and I don't know why. It's like I enjoyed that film. I laughed at it. I thought it was a good script. I thought, oh yeah, that's a good film. But it's not a film that maybe with a second viewing, Michael says it didn't benefit him having a second viewing, but I thought maybe it would. But yeah, I just thought it was a really good film, an enjoyable film. But maybe I'm saying that because I feel like it's had quite a lot of hype. So my expectation for this film was high, and I'm not saying it's bad because I thought it was good, but it just wasn't great for me. So 7 out of 10. Yeah, just like similar. I thought it was good. Enjoyed it. Etok?
I can't wait to watch Glass Onion.
Yeah,
I'll start off with that. So that tells you what. So I finished this movie. I watched it today, and I was like, I wonder if I've got time to squeeze in Glass Onion. I thought, so that kind of gives you an idea of what I felt about this movie. I really enjoyed this movie, like a lot. Maybe cuspering on love, but I thought like the cast were great, and like you say, there wasn't like Toni Collette's in. I mean, you look at like Toni Collette, what a fucking great actress, and all the films she's in, she's always fantastic. Like Little Miss Sunshine and numerous others. But even the small parts they have are so memorable. Even Don Johnson. Like Don Johnson pops up. Like they don't all have a lot of screen time, but when they do, it's done so well. And those that do have a lot of screen time, as we said, Benoit Blanc and Marta, just their chemistry together as well. And
yes. You can see why he got her into a Bond film afterwards.
Oh yes, of course, yeah. I didn't even think of that when we talked about the Bond thing before.
He recommended her apparently. So.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a case of like their chemistry, and I think the weird thing is even like. I said about Daniel Craig's charm. She has a great deal of charm, and I'm talking about not necessarily the characters as well, the actors in this film. There's a lot of. Even like the horrible characters, there's still charm there. There's still that thing where when they're on screen, you can't look away. And I think Smith brings up a great point about the setting as well. It's almost like I've described Ghostbusters over the years. It's like New York is an integral part of that movie. Like without New York, it's like, well, where are we? And I think with this film, the setting, and yes, it's of course it has to be like that kind of house, like a Cluedo kind of thing, like Whodunit. But I think the setting and like the Smith said, like the season, it's autumn and everything, or fall as the Americans say. There are so many factors of this movie. I love the structure of it. I love the fact that, like Smith and I said, it's just that thing of at the start you're like, oh, is it going to be this movie where we get all these different like versions of this same story? And then as soon as Marta gives her version of events, you're like, oh, this is. Well, we know. So now we've got a different movie. It's almost like the film is like 3 acts. You've got this first act. The second act is we know her truth, and then the third act is, oh well, here's us unraveling how she's in this position she finds herself in. It's very much a movie I kind of want to watch straight away. Like Nige said, the second time you watch this, you appreciate, especially obviously Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig's character more. So I'm really intrigued to watch it again. But also, I want to watch it again because I really enjoyed it. But it's just one of those films. It's like, oh, I would highly recommend this. I would watch it again. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10.
Oh,
there we go.
Nice.
Really enjoyed it.
Now, what do I think? Having watched it again,
this is going to be fascinating.
So I quite like a murder mystery, I must say. Like, big fan of Clue. There's a film called The Beast Must Die. One of you is a werewolf. I love that kind of stuff. I used to watch in my student days when we were sat around doing not very much in the afternoons, the Diagnosis Murders, the Murder, She Wrote, etc.
Oh, yeah.
I think when I first was going to watch this film, I'm a fan of Rian Johnson's as well. Like, I didn't think Looper was as good as it could have been, but I really enjoyed Brick, and there's something about his style that I quite like. But then when I saw the cast, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those, and I said this word earlier, it's glossy, too many celebrities kind of hogging the screen, and the story's going to get lost, and it's going to be all a bit ridiculous. And there is a little bit of that, and I think maybe it does try to be a little bit too smart, but that's because with murder mystery, it's kind of all been done before. It's very hard to do something original. And I do think that the cast works really well. There's not a misstep by any of them. Like, obviously, you've both kind of mentioned the complexity and the intrigue from the screenplay. This was actually nominated again, like Best Oscar for Original Screenplay, although it lost to Parasite that year, which obviously did cleaned up a little bit. But yeah, for this film, having watched it about 5 years ago, so bear in mind, I remembered certain elements of this film, but not the entirety of the film. I was concerned, am I going to go back and think, what am I going to think of this? And I think I've said this before on the podcast. Quite often I'll put an IMDb review in and be like, oh yeah, what did I give it before? And this is one of the few times where what I gave it then, I've given it again now. So exactly the same. I was like, oh yeah, this is a film, and I looked at it, I thought, I wonder what I gave it before. Oh, I gave it a
Oh.
So yeah, so for me,
what is that?
What's the
What's
it's meh. It's meh out of 10. No. So for me, like Smith said as well, I just find it a really enjoyable film. It's just very easy to watch. While it's complicated in some respects, it's not overly complicated that you completely lose track, albeit I've seen it twice now. And yeah, it's just enjoyable. And again, this is a film I watched with my partner. She found it enjoyable. It's just, I imagine it's the sort of film you could show your parents, they'd enjoy. You could show your friends, they'd enjoy. It's just got quite a bit of a mass appeal, and I can see why it's kind of got that cult following. Whether or not I feel the same about Glass Onion is another thing entirely, but I will be interested to see what James Eatock thinks. But I'm not quite as high as him, not quite as low as Smith or Burling. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So I would love to say, if you've not seen this film, go and watch it. But if you've listened to this podcast, we've spoiled the shit out of it. So I apologise profusely for that. And obviously, if you're listening to this and you've never seen it,
what are you doing?
Apologies. What are you doing, man?
Nice. Oh, good. 7, 8, 9. And 7.5 for Michael. Quite high scores for this film. Knives Out.
It'll probably be in the end of year leaderboard quite high, you would think.
Yeah, I'm genuinely interested to see Glass Onion as well. I will say that.
Yeah. I'm certainly interested to see the new one.
Yeah, and the new one, whatever that is. Yeah. But yeah, guys, get in touch. Let us know what you think about Knives Out. Give us another film to watch. Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com. Tweet us at offradarpodcast.
Yeah, and if you get blood on your trainer, stay away from Daniel Craig, because he will spot it.
He will spot it. I knew that was going to come back in the film. We need your help. We are looking to grow Off Radar and release more and more high quality content. Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your pod. And why not share with your friends and loved ones?
Help me help you.